Hello, and welcome back to a tutorial for Natural Selection 2 players who are interested in playing as Commander for Marines. Now, in the previous two videos, we covered the Robotics Factory, and also we covered the Observatory and Phase Gate, and also covered the placement of phase gates, just as an additional tactical bit of information. Next up, we're going to go ahead, in this video, we're going to cover the Armory and some of the things you can do with the Armory and its importance. Now, the Armory is probably, in a way, is even more important than the Observatory, even though I think the Observatory is the most important building. But you cannot do anything without an Armory. An Armory is like a prerequisite to almost everything. You can, in this case, in building an Armory, it unlocks the ability to build an observatory. This is a new thing in the latest builds of Natural Selection, which is meant to kind of defer the timing of gameplay. But basically, the first thing you want to build as soon as you get started, aside from res nodes, is an Armory. Now, in my opinion, Armory is not as needed super early game as it might seem, but it is, again, essential, in my opinion, for you to get one so you can get an observatory. But what are the things that the Armory can do aside from healing your Marines and keeping them at full health and full armor? Well, if you didn't already know, which I hope you do, it obviously can. You can research shotguns, welders, mines, and you can upgrade to an advanced Armory, which will allow you to deploy grenade launchers and flamethrowers. Now, that's kind of essentially, it's your store for your Marines to buy things. And they're all very important depending on, the timing of the game and when you want to, how you want to treat certain tactics. You may not need any of these things to win a game. You only will need the Armory itself in order to get other buildings. Now, an advanced Armory. So we've got other Armories across the map, right? There's one here. We're going to go ahead and upgrade the advanced Armory here, which will happen pretty quickly because we're in Explore mode. Now, let's cover shotguns. So shotguns, if you've been playing as a Skulk, you probably find are pretty painful. You can easily be one-shot killed by a shotgun depending on your range, how close you are to Marine, and how good of a shot they are. And they're great for that. They're great for doing a lot of damage. They're great for killing hives. And that's actually one of the things that the Natural Selection 2 creators basically kind of followed the concept that they didn't want one weapon to necessarily be massively more powerful so everybody gets a grenade launcher. And doesn't use a light machine gun, or they go, oh, we just get this big weapon and let's get the BFG and go kill everything. It's not really that way, and that's one of the great things I love about this game is that a shotgun has a specific role. It's very good at killing aliens up close. It's also very good for doing a significant amount of damage up close to structures. But again, it has some advantages and disadvantages, as you'll find. You may like using the machine gun more than, or they call it the rifle, more than you would the shotgun, just because maybe it's just easier for you and it's just better for you to track targets and have a little bit more available to you. Now, in my opinion, as a commander, shotguns can backfire on you in a way, and this is why. If you have a team, and this you have to make a gauge. You have to basically feel out your teammates and see, are these really good shots? If you have a team that is they're all really, really good shots, get shotguns right away, because that means they're going to do a lot of damage and they're probably not going to die. And if that's the case, shotguns are going to be very effective early on. An early shotgun rush is a great idea for a team that is really good shots. But if you have a huge group of noobs, and no derogatory intention there, rookies, however you want to call it, but if you have a group of new players, then getting shotguns can actually be a huge res waste, because you need your teammates to have their own personal res for later in the game, for when they need to buy an exo, a jetpack, larger weapons like grenade launchers. If you get early shotguns, your teammates will go off and likely spend money on those shotguns, and they won't have res for later, and it will actually debilitate you later in the game if they are not good shooters. So it's actually a better idea for you to go ahead and, I think, depending on the case, obviously, it may be a better idea to build a arms lab before you even think about building or researching advanced weapons, because an arms lab, although somewhat expensive to get all those upgrades, will progressively improve your newer, more inexperienced players' abilities to kill and stay alive. So I think it's a really good idea. If you don't know who you got, go ahead and start getting these upgrades for the arms lab. Now, let's say, again, making these choices between upgrading your weapons and upgrading your weapon strength and your armor strength. Well, okay, these are all decisions that need to be made. They're effectively important decisions to make individually, for each. What do you do? How do you, what choices are you going to make? Well, again, I may go early shotguns just because I know I have a good team. That's probably the only time I'm going to do that. Or if I know I have at least one strong player that will dominate using a shotgun, I'll do him a favor and get it. It's not super expensive. It's only $20 to do that, but it could backfire on you because you get all your other players buying shotguns and wasting them. So let's say that I've got noobish players. What do I want to do with my arms lab? Well, if I have noobish players, I typically want to get armor. I want to help them stay alive longer. And if they're not good at shooting, and therefore not staying alive on the field, you want to help them have just a little bit more defensive capability on the field. So I would end up getting armor as a default action. Now, if I have strong players, I'm going to do weapons. If I have really strong players who are really good at staying alive, I may skip over all of the armor upgrades and go straight for weapons 3, just because I know it's going to, again, offense is the best defense. Well, that is definitely true in natural selection, and in this case, for you to give your players really strong offensive capabilities could win you the game early on. So in this case, let's assume that you're in a new server. It seems like everybody is inexperienced. We'll probably just go ahead, and the safe route to go is armor first before you do anything. And go from there. Another safe route, if you don't want to spend money on shotguns, semi-safe, and is to get mines. Now, mines can easily get wasted. It's very easy for you to place 100 mines and they all go to waste. So, and also you got to remember that your Marines are spending money on those mines. If you're not the one. If you're not the one spending money on mines, they're going to probably spend money on mines. But it could get them kills, it could get them points, and it could be a very good defensive way to go. Mines, I think, are one of those things that it's a toss-up either way. If you get them, awesome. If you don't, no big deal. But again, that depends on the situation. I like them, though. I like to do mines. If you have the res to do it, get mines, and they're great for tactical situations, and they're great for defense. So it sounds like my armor is done. Now, what's the next thing for me to do in upgrading from here? Well, okay, I've got armor 1, and I could go up to armor 2 if I really thought I had a mega noobish team, but that's probably not a good idea, because now at that point in the game, the aliens are probably getting better at killing Marines. They might have higher life forms. You need to get weapons 1 as soon as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and do weapons 1 next. Still haven't got shotguns. Again, this is a very basic, safe, walkthrough in a sense of what you want to get on upgrades. And so it's going up. Obviously we're in explore mode. It's going to go really, really fast, and kind of go from there. So you also notice. Oh, that wasn't what I meant to do yet. You also notice again. This is an advanced armory. An advanced armory is a prerequisite for you to get a proto lab. But also a prerequisite for you to get a proto lab is you must have 2 command chairs, at least. So I will typically play it out in a way that once I'm ready to drop, a second command chair, I will go ahead and upgrade the Armory to be Advanced Armory at that point. When I know that I'm about to drop it, I'll go ahead and start upgrading it. Therefore, I'm kind of synchronizing and improving the parallel building times of things. Now, again, we just got another upgrade. Well, what's now? Sorry, before we do anything. Here we've got our weapons and armor. We're at weapons 1 and armor 1. We haven't got shotguns yet. Is it a good idea to get shotguns yet? Well, it's a better idea now that I have armor 1 to get shotguns, because that means that my potentially noobish players will be more likely to stay alive and less likely to waste money or res on these weapons. But it's also, you got to remember, your LMG, your rifle, your light machine gun is really still a good weapon. It's not a bad weapon. It's not that they can't get the job done with that, and have to have a shotgun. That's fine. So typically speaking, I'll play the safe route, and let's get armor 2 next. And still waiting on shotguns. Wait till I feel like, okay, even if you're not good at a good shot, then you just be able to keep it a little bit more alive. So I'll wait until we get armor level 2 up before getting shotguns. Now, once armor level 2 is up, I'll parallel build or parallel research weapons 2 and shotguns, and at that point, you're actually at a really, really good research point where you have really strong weapons, you have really strong armor, and I mean,
research complete.
Armor level 3 and weapons level 3 are, how do you say, like, they're really at the top. So that's when you're really kicking butt. So I would say go ahead and we'll research shotguns, and we'll also research weapons level 2. And we're doing this in parallel. They'll both, obviously, shotguns actually researches really fast, and so you'll get that right away. But now your team has a little bit more longevity. The shotguns have weapon level 1. They'll do a lot of damage. They'll easily be one-shooting, skulks all over the place, and you're good to go. And just to kind of make a side comment, it's really very typical for if there's a fade on the field. If you even hear somebody say, "Oh, fade," and you haven't got shotguns already, do it. Just do it. They need the shotguns. It's really important to be able to take them down. So here we are at a point in the tech research in the game where we have shotguns, we have weapons level 2 and armor level 2. Now you don't have to force keep building armor and 1 and weapons level armor 3 and weapons level 3. You can actually kind of pivot from here and spend stuff on more other things, because your Marines are actually at a pretty good position with this basic level weapon set. But if you're in the process of assaulting a hive and you really want to put the pressure on, grenade launchers are massively helpful for assaulting a hive and even assaulting certain positions that are established by the aliens. I think welders are kind of an obvious thing for people, but I'll go over it. You need to get I don't always get welders right away. I wait until there's a problem. I wait until power node and base is at 30%. Okay, I'll get you a welder. Oh, we've got as soon as you have exos in the field, you definitely want to get welders as soon as you have an exos out, because you need your team to be able to repair them. And then lastly, okay, we're gonna go over flamethrowers. So flamethrowers. Well, when would you get flamethrowers? What are their advantages? What are their disadvantages? Well, they're not LMGs, they're not shotguns, and they're definitely not grenade launchers. They don't have the massive damage capacity of a grenade launcher. They don't have the same damage capacity of a shotgun. But what they do is they have one major important special ability, and that is they will kill spores. They basically incinerate spores. They're a counter to lurks. And once there's a lot of lurks on the field, it's almost key that you get yourself a flamethrower and go from there. Because if you don't, you're just going to get gassed to death, by a lurk swarm, and that's not a good thing. I like the combination of flamethrowers and jetpacks, because you can actually send off Marines with a flamethrower and jetpack, and they can very, very quickly cut a large chain of cysts. And whether the aliens know it or not, it can really set them back. It's really a good idea, I think, to have a Marine with a jetpack and a flamethrower just running around the map, just torching stuff like crazy. It will really, really cause a lot of distraction. And again, flamethrowers are, I wouldn't say give everybody a flamethrower. It's not a good idea. I would say give one or two people a flamethrower, or have one or two have a flamethrower. Same thing with grenade launchers. Get one or two people with grenade launchers and everybody else defend them with LMGs and shotguns. Rifles and shotguns, depending on how you know the game. So we'll go ahead and finish up. And again, at this point where it's at weapons level 2 and 3, I may actually not go for armor. I may say, I'm actually just going to skip over armor 3 because I want to have. Now that I have, let's say I got jetpacks. If I have jetpacks have a defensive capability of keeping the team alive. So, do I want to spend money on jetpacks or I want to spend money on armor 3? I probably want to spend it on jetpacks because jetpacks are way, way more useful for the team to be able to get around the map and to stay alive, when things are attacking. So if I get a jetpack, I'll end up immediately getting weapons level 3 because now those jetpackers are doing more damage.
Research complete.
And now we have, as soon as this is up, we'll be able to get armor level 3, and at that point, armor level 3 is like icing on the cake. You've baked a cake, and you just want to have some really good frosting. That's kind of what I think armor level 3 is for me. Now that you have, let's say we have jetpacks. Now I almost always get jetpacks before I get exos, and the reason why that is because jetpacks for the really good players are like basically they turn your ninjas into super ninjas, and that's what you want. You want to be able to have people going out on the field, staying alive, going to hives, doing damage, killing off upgrades, but being able to stay alive and get there quickly. So they have, I think, they're also really cheap. They're only 10 to buy. So it's one of those things that they really, really help out your team earlier on than, say, exos are. You can also beacon jetpackers, which you cannot beacon exoskeletons, and this is one of the downsides of it. So, I think, like most people, well, maybe not most people, but for me, exoskeletons are your game finisher, or maybe even a turning point. And, as soon as you can get them, that's great. But again, you may just want to try to use the jetpackers that you have to take down a hive before even concerning yourself about having an exo assault. I'll go ahead and get the armor level 3 and go from there. Now, let's make sure let's do a quick review and cover the things that we went over. So again, we covered all the weapons in the armory. We covered a typical or safe path for getting upgrades.
Research complete.
In the arms lab. We also went ahead and reviewed the proto lab, which right now we'll go ahead and get dual exos, and this gives you an idea of majority of the tech abilities in Marines and some ways of getting there, and hopefully why you would do one or the other. So this concludes
Research complete.
This concludes the video for Marines, buildings, and structures and technology.